Now let's look at acts of service. Doing something for the other person that you know they really would like for you to do. Again, the old saying is, actions speak louder than words. And that's true for some people. Not all people. It's not true for me, for example. Words speak more deeply to me than actions. I'd much rather hear my wife say how great I am than to do something for me. But for my wife, acts of service is her language. It's actions speak louder than words from her. I can say to her, I love you, I love you, I love you, and she'll say, I'm sick and tired of it. I love you, I love you. Do something. So acts of service speaks louder to her. Now, a part of our problem in speaking this language is stereotypes. Sometimes the society has men stereotyped certain things they do and certain things women do. And sometimes it's your mother and father who gave you a pattern. And so, you know, some of us grow up with ideas of men don't wash dishes or women don't mow the lawn or whatever. And I'm not trying to change stereotypes. That's not my purpose. My purpose is to help us love each other. And I'm going to tell you this, no matter what the stereotype is, if my wife's love language is acts of service and washing dishes is one of her dialects, I'm going to wash the dishes. Why? I want to live with a happy woman. So what I'm saying is we might have to break the stereotypes, but we can do it. And giving information about what would be meaningful to you is really important for your spouse, because they could spend a whole day painting a bedroom where you wanted them to be planting the bushes. So I'm painting the bedroom thinking I'm doing a great act of service for my spouse, and she's thinking, you know, that could have waited. I wish this is the time to do the bushes. So you need to give them information. In fact, I've suggested to people that you make especially if this is the love language of your spouse, let them make a list of 10 things that they would like for you to do. 10 things that would really speak love to them, and put them in order of priority. Number 1 is most important, down to number 10. That way, they will be working on number 1 instead of working on number 10. It's just good information to give your spouse. Now, we're talking here about major projects, you know, painting and shrubs and cleaning the garage and those kind of things. But also, there are daily acts of service and there are weekly acts of service. So it would be a good idea if you made a list of 2 or 3 things that you would like for your spouse to do every day, such as taking out the trash or walking the dog or changing the baby's diaper, or, you know, something that would be meaningful to you, and maybe something every week that they could do for you. Now, I know that some of these things are hard for certain people because they're just not geared this way. But again, we can learn to do that. I told you my wife's language is acts of service. I vacuum floors, not for me, but for her. And if that didn't make her feel loved, I wouldn't vacuum floors. I'd be doing something else. You remember the couple I told you earlier who came in and had no money problems and no arguments? Let me give you the other side of that story. I said to him, I'd like to change the subject. Could you tell me what would be an ideal wife in your mind? And he said, you really want to know? And I said, yeah, tell us. He said, I've dreamed about this. He said, what would be ideal? That she would come home and fix dinner for me, and then she'd wash dishes, and then she'd sew the buttons on my shirt. And his wife broke in and said, I'm not believing you. You told me you like to cook. He said, darling, I don't mind cooking, but the man asked me what would be ideal. You see, I knew the man's love language. Why was he doing all those things for her? That was his love language. So, and when the couple finally got it, he said to me, you know, I wish I'd have known this 20 years ago. I could have been sitting on the couch talking to her instead of doing all this stuff. And she said, honey, I don't mind fixing a meal. And they went home and started speaking the right love language. And in 2 months, they sent me a letter and said, Dr. Chapman, our marriage has never been so good. We finally learned how to speak each other's language. Acts of service. It's powerful for some people.